The cardinal rule of thirds is one of the first rules of composition in photography. In moving images, it generally works more as a guideline than a rule. What is the rule of thirds? The concept is based on mentally dividing the viewfinder or the frame with imaginary lines. 2 vertical and 2 horizontal. The center of interest is meant to be in and around the intersecting points. Originally, painters devised this concept as a guide to improve balance in a picture. By not placing a subject right in the center and by placing a supplementary or additional center of interest at a counterpoint intersection, an image gets a dynamic equilibrium. The simplest example is the horizon. Placing the horizon at the bottom or top line makes for a more attractive picture. The axis runs across the center of the subject or action area. The options for camera positions are all to one side of the axis.
For anybody to spend $40 a day or $50 a day or I didn't do very well, but I didn't do
No, even then, I mean, it's become interesting now with the new curriculum in there.
We were the first batch, we were the guinea pig.
Pretty new.
And these are the kind of shots that can then be correctly cut during editing.
Find somewhere in South Campus to come to. So you do get.
The camera cannot jump the axis line.
It didn't develop as like.
Simply because this is what will happen while editing. A surprise one can ill afford.
Situation. You know, it can also just be an everyday thing.
So what are you guys all about?
We're here for him, Ryan.
Me, sir?
James Francis Ryan of Iowa.
Yes, sir. I paid in Iowa. That's correct. What is this about?
Your brothers were killed in combat.
Which ones?
All of them.
On the level?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. You might want to take some time with this. If there's some place you want to go and...
What's this all about?
Ryan lost his brothers.
Which one?
All of them.
You came all the way out here to tell me that?
Well, you're going home. Our orders are to bring you back.
Bring me back.
Corporal Henderson, don't mean to leave you even more shorthanded, but orders are orders. Any communication about when you're going to be relieved up here?
Sir, there's no way to tell. I mean, we have no idea what's happening south of us.
I have my orders too, sir. They don't include me abandoning my post.
I understand that, but this changes things.
And then they took us to a siding.
Something like this?
Something like this, with open coal trucks. Now these look a little on the big side, but nonetheless, pretty well, this is what they looked like. That's it, if you can open the door. Well that's it, it's a little high, but it's a coal truck and it's almost bigger than what I remember, yeah.
It's certainly got...
It's longer as well, yes, cold, yes, but it's a bit longer, yeah. But don't forget, it's probably 200 women in here. The guard went in with a piece of chalk, marked out a territory, put on a blanket, and he said, "This is my territory. Everyone that steps over is going to get shot and out."
What was done? What was done with the corpses?
We didn't do anything. The guard came along and threw them off.
They were thrown over the edge?
Over the edge, yeah. So, you know, we kept away from him.
So when you finally arrived, where did you arrive, Kitty?
In a place called Porta. That was the very first station we came to. We read up there, it said Porta. And that's where they threw us out. Now, in the meantime, I would say about half the people had died of starvation.
Though they didn't know it at the time, Kitty and her companions did have a final destination.
What the Sierra Leone government wants most is British military help for its new army. We met them training on an old golf course. These are the men who will have to face the rebels if the Ecomog forces pull out as promised in May. The old army, from which many of the officers are drawn, was corrupt and brutal. They're not yet a force to inspire much confidence.
Nowadays, those 200 DNA samples will be analysed not in 6 months, but in 6 hours. So the speed at which we can analyse these samples has increased exponentially. And likewise, the sensitivity of the technology. Again, back in 1987, we needed a blood stain about the size of a 10-pence piece in order to get sufficient DNA to give us a result. Nowadays, the techniques are so sensitive that sometimes you can't even visualise the material under a microscope and yet still get a good result. So the advances have been really quite extraordinary.
For Wendy Watson, the campaign goes on. She's been invited by the Department of Health to apply for a substantial grant to set up and run a national helpline for women worried about hereditary breast cancer. Ministers will consider her bid next month.
Every woman has a right to be able to make an informed decision of what she should do.
The man who has the difficult job of actually carrying out the culling trial on the ground is Bristol University's former head of veterinary science, Professor John Bourne. But even he throws doubts on the effectiveness of culling badgers.
Has badger culling that's been carried out over the last many years worked to control the disease? It hasn't.
This Birmingham solicitor, who specialises in family law, agrees the process is too slow.
In Birmingham, we found the first stage of the process is getting longer. It used to be 12 weeks.
And 42 bids for number 2, you have a 3, bidding for 3, 43 bid, and 43, all in front at 43 bids for number 3, bidding, 43, bidding, 43's on my left, and 43 bids for number 3, out right to the 43, bound bid for number 43, Sullivan left in, last time, bids left, Sullivan down at 43, 43, Mr. Rowlands.
We rely heavily on support from hunts. We make normal clothes, suits, and all the rest of it. But a lot of this comes through originally making somebody a hunting coat. You know, he'll have a hunting coat from you and then maybe follow up and have a suit, and we make a lifelong customer of him. Without that sort of business, we would struggle to survive.
A ban, it's claimed, would be a disaster for the rural economy. People like Jeff Gilby are worried. He has 50 horses at his stable yard in Loughborough. It can cost more than £100 a week to keep a horse at livery. He fears the consequences of a ban.
In some parts where you get a little bit further away from the towns to what we are, the employment thing would be devastating.
Many sheep and poultry farmers do see the fox as a pest, but not all. Roger Miles says he has more trouble with the hunt than foxes.
Farmer's friend, basically. A fox will take a small lamb if it gets the chance, but usually live quite happily together.
चीता ऊपर चढ़ा था, उसको देख के मैं देख रहा हूँ यहाँ से चीता जो है.
Like in this case, an obvious cut-in leads us further into the scene.
बहुत डर लगा. ये माला सब खत्म हो गया, कहाँ तो फेंक दिए थे.
Every segment offers the possibility of detailing. These are the cut-ins for compressing screen time or highlighting an aspect of the scene. The cutaway works much the same way, but it can be a shot outside the main action area, within the vicinity, a reaction shot. The cutaway is often used to break the monotony of a scene or to create a disturbance in viewing. Suspense, intrigue, questioning. Similarly, a cutaway brings relief to a lengthy scene. Technically too, cut-ins and cutaways play an important role. An editor will never forgive a cameraman who has not brought back intercuts for each scene, because not only does it seriously impact the pace of the sequence, it cramps the style of storytelling. Intercuts are the filmmaker's safety shots to cover gaps in continuity and bridge the passage of time. It works much the same way for action-related or in-scene segments, where continuity of not just the eye, but of the action is the critical element. A self-help group collects apricot seeds for crushing. Simple enough, but disastrous on the edit table if the cutaway or cut-in shots needed for continuity are not in position.